Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Enyi Osuji, and to my right,
Maya Siobhan.
And LaRouge.
Damola. How's it coming?
How's it coming? Cheers, cheers.
I can't with you, Enyi.
So today we're gonna just, it's like a kind of like an umbrella topic, but we're gonna delve deep into it. Basically, some people call it baby mamas, some people call it baby daddy, some people call it whatever. I choose to use the term co-parenting because I think that's what you should be doing. I don't want no baby mom, baby daddy, but we want to discuss a little bit about the complexities of it. What do you prefer? Do you not prefer that? You know, would you rather be with, try to work it out, or how does that dynamic work? How do you establish boundaries between you and your co-parenter? So I think to start it off, I want to ask the panel. First of all, I don't know how to start it off really, but I guess what is your stance? I guess what would be your stance on co-parenting?
That is an American thing?
Okay.
No, just leave it at
Right.
that.
Well, being the American in the room, and
I'm American, so.
I mean,
Which one are you? One
I'm American, but it's an American thing.
I'm very American.
Let me just kind of get into it a little bit and then I'll pass it on to you. I was born in the United States of America, Washington, D.C. I was raised in Nigeria with Nigerian tradition. And that is not something that it's not a Nigerian thing. It's not an African thing. And I saw it more when I came back to the United States of America. Now keep in mind, I am the child of a separated, marriage. And in Nigeria, it wasn't a case of co-parenting. It was you go live with grandma and grandfather. You know, the unit still stands even if the unit that created you is separated. You know, there's a tradition that we don't just welcome new energy into this circle that was created together, because before we created it, we met all sides of the family. You know, so it was not just you marrying this guy, it was the families marrying each other. And I came to the United States of America and it became more common that co-parenting was, something that was done. There's nothing wrong with it, but I don't think it's something that I would market as it's okay to do because that's how life happens. I think there are things that you can do to avoid that being the case. And it goes back to me focusing, in this specific case, focusing on how the traditional way is structured. The tradition plays a big part in why that is not really the first, second, third, or fourth option traditionally. And I'll go back into it a little bit more.
right. Okay. Well, let me say, first and foremost, co-parenting is exactly what it is. It's two people doing something on two different ends. You can be in a household with your mom and your father and still be a semi-co-parenting situation. So where your mom, is more of the enforcer and your dad is just kind of there, or vice versa. In this society, the unfortunate thing is that, people get together, have a child before they get to know the person. And I'm going to disagree with him and say that it's an American thing, because I've met quite a few people from other cultures that have children in other countries. If it's, Thailand, if it's Africa, if it's Europe, and they live here in the States and they have children. So I'm not going to pin that on the American culture, which, given our society, of course, our culture is kind of all misconstrued. Now, for me, being a co-parent myself, it has everything to do with the people involved. From day 1 to day 21 to day 51. If you know the person that you're dealing with and you have a foundation with that person and that person's family, co-parenting doesn't even seem like a thing. It's just what you do. I have family members that, we all raise each other's kids in some way. Because this person has this child and the children don't know the difference. And I personally feel that your children will tell you as they grow up, like, what happened during that time. As I said, me being a parent and my son is with, with his dad, we parent on like the wings. And I say that because he's able to, to talk to his son about what's going on, and then he'll call me and say, oh, I told him this and that. And then when I talk to my son, we'll share in the conversation. And I'm like, well, your dad said you can't do this, so mommy can't go against you. In my own home, when I was a child, I would go to my dad and ask for something, wait till my mom came home and ask her for the same thing. And if they did not talk to each other, then guess what? We have a similar situation with if daddy lived over here and mommy lived over there. So I really feel that it's the parents that need to get involved and allow for the child not to feel the difference.
I was just gonna say, I think there's so many sides to it. I feel like I'm maybe putting words in your mouth, but I feel like part of the reason why you would make the statement that it's an American thing is because growing up in America, the Nigerian and African families that I saw, some of them do stay, but for them to actually get divorced is a real life struggle. Like it's like they don't really just get divorced like that, and there's so many different sides to it. If you ask me, I know people who their lifestyle and everything and their upbringing was actually better for them when their parents were co-parenting. I think the most important thing is that, for me personally, is that the man, for me, from my perspective, is in that child's life, 100%. As long as he's in the child's life, he knows the teachers. He knows what's going on, and he knows what's going on in that child's life. To me, that's the most important thing, because why the co-parenting is bad for multiple reasons. You have sometimes you may not have good boundaries with your quote unquote baby mama or whatever, or that's little things like that, or just have different styles in parenting and different views, which may have ultimately led to divorce in the first place. So, or whatever separation and made y'all, whatever circumstance or whatever. But I just think as long as the mother and the father are in the child's life, and they're both working together in tandem, it's cool. But I just prefer not to do that personally. I wish I didn't have to do that. As I'm getting older, like I was saying earlier, I'm more prone to, I don't mind, first of all, I love dating older women in general. So when I talk about dating older women, I do. Yeah, I like dating older women in general. I do. I really do. Like, even when I'm like, I'm looking for like 30, I wish 37, 36 to like 44. Yeah, I'm cool with that, but I have to be realistic that 36, 34, that's more than likely to have a child. So, or 2, or 3,
or 4,
or 4.
5.
5, I don't know about 5,
7.
5, I may not respond to your text.
From different parents?
From different
parents.
Yeah. So this one's from, I forgot. Well, I'm not sure where he came from. See, I can't do that. But that's just me personally. I think that I don't see anything wrong with co-parenting. Now, for me, if I come in as a man and you have a child, I think everything should be very clear. I think a lot of people are not honest with themselves, which is why they end up in a lot of these situations. They're not really honest about with their true self about what they're doing and what they really want to do. Life happens, mistakes happen, something that I wouldn't really call
mistakes. I know you don't want to call them mistakes. It's it is surprises. Surprises happen. No, really.
I was gonna correct myself. Yeah. It's on that vein too. But that's just me personally. I don't see nothing wrong with co-parenting. Me personally, I'm gonna be real. That's how I grew up. That's like I'm trying to, as a man, you want to live your own life, but as I grow up, if I ended up in that situation, and it may sound backwards, but I feel like my parents would be uberly disappointed in me for getting into that situation and then being divorced, only because they value staying together. That's a big thing. Even though I may not agree with the staying together thing, they value it so much. If I would end a situation and then it didn't work out after they told me, and don't let them have told me before, like, don't do it. You know what I'm saying? And that's just me because I'm Nigerian, so everything, there's a weight on everything, especially being the only child. So those kind of things gotta play a role into it. So that's me personally.
Well, co-parenting is definitely, it's a very, very interesting, difficult thing to deal with. if you're the woman that's dealing with a man that has a child, if you're the man that's dealing with a woman that has a child, there is always this, how do I put it? There is always that difficulty that the parents of that child have when it comes to communication, agreements, how they're dealing with each other, especially if that woman still has emotions for the man. Men can easily get over things and kind of move on. Not to say that women can't either, but usually the women are more so caught up in the emotions of the fact that they can't have this man anymore, or they're no longer with this man, so they kind of take that out on the child, and that affects the relationship extremely. And then that makes it kind of difficult for that individual that's dealing with the man, in terms of being in that child's life. I mean, I'm in the situation, and I love, I call her my own. I love her to death. We have this great bond. So it's no blame can be put on anyone's side, but a beautiful child came out of it. So the focus should be that child. What we need to do is stop being caught up in our emotions and stop being selfish about our own needs and just pay attention to the child. And if you have another mother that comes into this child's life that's great to this child, that's wonderful, which is something you can't easily find. Not every individual is going to love their child like you love your child. So if you have this individual that's in your child's life to cherish your child the same way you do, gives them the love the same way you do, that's actually something you should be very appreciative of, because it's not something that comes easily, and I think that at the end of the day, we just need to start being caught up in our own emotions and our self-interest of, if I can't have you, no one else can, and this just creates more trouble and more problems. And even though women are more caught up in the emotions as well, it is sometimes an ego thing for guys as well, especially like when it comes to having this idea of another man taking care of their child.
My daughter.
Let's say for example a daughter. So when a guy starts thinking along that lines, then that ego thing comes in. Like I don't agree with this man living in the same house with my daughter. I don't want him giving her instructions and blah blah blah. But if you know the woman you have this child with, you guys know each other's value. You guys respect each other's value. You know that woman is not going to endanger that child. That woman is not going to put your child in a position for any man to endanger that child's life, for any man to treat that child any other way. And if that individual does that to that child, then that's when it becomes a problem. Then you as a man can extremely take that ego to the next level and do whatever you need to do to have your child in your space if you feel otherwise. That's what I think.
I want to ask a question, right? And this is a real honest question. We live in Los Angeles, California, right? I want to ask about two specific groups of people, two specific communities of people. Is co-parenting common in the Asian and Jewish community? Simple yes or no?
No.
I don't know enough about the Jewish community, but it's not as high, but it is there.
How about in the Asian community?
No. I don't know enough to say yay or nay, but let's just say no.
It's a cultural thing.
Why do you think
It's a cultural thing.
It's cultural. It's yeah. I would definitely say that. Now, you can't say that it doesn't exist at all.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but when you look at percentage, my assumption, I'm willing to say, my assumption is, and I'm talking about people who stuck to the traditional responsibilities and the traditional ways of doing things. I would not be surprised if it's less than 5%. I would not be surprised.
Well, here's the thing.
Is that low?
I would not be surprised if it's.
I was thinking like maybe like 15, maybe.
Nah.
Are we talking about the percentage of it being, or how it's done?
The percentage of, let me even start with the percentage of broken homes. So in the Jewish community and in the Asian community, let's say Chinese, right? Because we walk down the street to UCLA quite often. And what is the assumed percentage of a broken home? So the son or the daughter, father lives somewhere else, mom lives somewhere else. What is the percentage assumption? And I'm saying I would not be surprised.
Asians.
Let's say Chinese, right? Traditional Chinese people. I would not be surprised if it's
really
less than.
Now you say traditional Chinese.
Well, they kill their kids, so of course it won't be. So if you're gonna go
Los Angeles,
tradition,
California.
Not in LA.
well,
Like
then
China.
that's different because when
Maybe
you
China.
cross the water, when you come here, it's
This is the thing.
you
Whether
come
you
into the
want to-
groove of
That's
it.
not what we're
No, hold on, it's fine. Whether we want to admit it or not, this is one. The reason, the reason why I said it's an American thing, obviously it's not just an American thing.
Right.
But I think the one thing that happens too often is in the modern day, right? We give ourselves too many comfortable exits to a lot of things.
That's fair.
We give ourselves too many. No. That's old school, right? That's fine, but did everything work in everybody's favor in the old school? Probably not, right? There were probably marriages that did not work, like in the household, like it was hard. But the thing that kept it afloat was the community.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned that community specifically. And I mentioned in Nigeria, right? The reason why it's frowned upon is because that is even though we want to say in this new affluent world it is acceptable, which it is, because this is the society we live in now, and this is what we created. It's still not the first option, and if it can be avoided, there's no reason to run away from avoiding it. Because in certain cultures, right, you are arranged a marriage. And we might look at it and say it's barbaric. But the reason why it works in that surrounding or whatever, that society, is because the father and the mother, we are responsible for keeping our tradition afloat to the next.
By the way,
Statistically, it's more successful.
Actually, I was going to say,
More successful, right? Because the first thing that we do is we respect something other than ourselves.
Right.
Whether it's God, and then it's the community, then it's us. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to co-parent. If that's what life creates, that's what life creates. But again, I think in the United States of America, where I live, it is we are become too comfortable with divorce. Divorce is a lawyer away. We can do it because it's whatever. It's
an option that's available.
It's an option.
But one thing I will say is it's weird because there are certain situations where I feel like it is warranted and it's better for you not to be with each other. Now you got kids.
Right.
You got kids, that makes it a little bit more complex. It's not as simple anymore, but sometimes it's better for the kids, for the parents not to even be together.
Yeah, I mean, and
Let me close out what I was saying.
No, sorry.
That was the old way, right? Absolutely. Whatever. But the reason why I bring that up specifically is because in the same United States of America, I can file bankruptcy and walk away from everything irresponsible I did.
Right.
It's fact.
Yeah.
In other cultures, if you have $1, you have $1.
Yeah.
And you get what you
It's true.
exist as the fact.
It's true, no.
But in the United States of America, I can go out, buy 17 cars, knowing
Yeah.
I can file bankruptcy and walk away from everything irresponsible I did.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'm talking about. Because I've always said, I think in this modern day society where a woman is independent and the guy's independent, it's important for us to, and the reality of the society we live in, it is important for us to be one with ourselves first, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And not only that, be willing to communicate 100% realistically, because I can't ignore the fact that statistically in Los Angeles there are more divorces, there's more cheating, whatever the case may be. Even though I'm in a relationship and I want to love you to the rest of my life, the fact is this is what we're really faced with here. So I'm not saying we should wake up in the morning trying to avoid things, but if it's snowing, it's okay for me to understand. Put some chains for your tire in the car, because this is the reality of what you live in. That's all I'm saying about it's an American thing, because they've created a system that allows not misbehavior, but it allows irresponsibility, because you can always walk away from it.
I think it's a person by person basis. Now, yes, I do agree that the American system is what it is, and I don't know Nigerian or African customs, but I do know quite a few people that have children,
Absolutely,
and they're non-American. So that's why I would say it's a case-by-case personal thing, because if you value the sanctity of marriage, of having a child, all of these things, it doesn't matter what your culture is. And if you don't, then if you're Chinese, or if you're Jewish, I have a Jewish friend, he's been married twice. He has 9 children with one woman, the first wife, right? So she embraced him with 9 kids. But I'm just saying, no, really, but
She definitely embraced
How come
so,
But he's a Jewish
but
people.
I don't know.
Kinda like-
I'm gonna. They do have they have a lot of children. Yeah. Yet at the same time, I've met a black woman. I met a Jewish guy. a few of them after I met this one that he's married. Well, she has her house and I'm over here. So if I'm not integrated into that culture, then I can't say what the statistic is. I know what it looks like, and I know as an African American, the statistic is different because it's what is transparent to us, because we show everything. And society loves to just display us as we divorce and we have children and we in welfare. But Jewish people are doing the same thing. There's Asians that leave China because, like I said earlier, their dad is trying to kill them because they're dating outside of. So just because it's not on TV and on the forefront doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So as far as the co-parenting aspect of it, I noticed that those who, like an Asian friend of mine that never met his dad for whatever reason, he's not better off because he's never met his dad. You know what I mean? His mom did the best she could, maybe his uncles and things of that nature, and he has his culture on his back because he can speak, Mandarin or what have you. But the other person that their mom was in Georgia and their dad was in New York, they were able to go to 2 different states to get what they needed to get. So to me, yes, America has created this platform, so to speak, to not have responsibility for anything, but it's a personal thing. It is.
It absolutely
I think it's
is.
case by case.
Of course, it's case by case. It doesn't defeat the. There's a reason why a lot of traditions are similar in what they frown upon.
Right.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, right? But the fact of the matter is, and the reason why this co-parenting thing is pretty, I'm not necessarily passionate about it, but it's a serious thing for me, is because too often we ignore why it could possibly happen, right? Because in order for me, right, before I have a kid, before I have a daughter, right, I'm just gonna be real, because I have sisters, and the one thing that is the most painful, right, is looking at a sister without her father directly in her life. That bugs me a lot, because I mentioned this on another episode about John Mayer's song, "Boys you can break to find out how much they can take. Boys will be strong. Boys soldier on. Boys will be gone without the woman, but fathers will get to your daughters." It is a father not in a man's life and a father not in a girl's life is extremely a whole. And I'm just talking about one aspect of mom and dad. It's okay for us to fight for mom and dad to stay together, right? It's okay for us to create a society where you guys are responsible enough to understand that you have to go through these customs to have a child, because when you bring a child into this world, that is the end of your personal lives, and everything goes into this child's life.
I think, and it's kind of the reason why it's especially touchy is because, when you go to Nigeria, you're not just raised by 2 parents. You're raised by literally, it's not really like a joke, it's really the village. Like if I do something, and forget about school. That's different. School, I do something at school, come back home, I'm gonna get my ass whipped at school, and I'm gonna get my ass whipped again when I get
in
home.
the next town.
Yeah.
They're whooping you all the way back,
On the way back home.
and your mom's thanking them for whooping you, and then whooping you in front of them,
and then,
so that they understand.
Then they'll whoop you later after.
Come on.
After she's
Come
everybody's
on.
like, okay, don't worry.
Sorry, but the example I gave once is in my grandmother's house.
Yeah.
The canes were behind the family picture, right? And the reason I'm not joking. And the reason why it was that case because, first of all, you have to reach to get the cane.
Yeah.
Number 2, when you're reaching to get the cane, you're looking at your family knowing I'm screwing up.
Yeah.
Right? So you take the cane, you're looking at them, you hand the cane, and you're getting cane because you ain't just you.
Yeah.
We didn't just create you.
True.
We weren't. Look.
And this is why I say it's really difficult, especially when you talk about the black family. It's a little bit different because number one, I feel like the black family, whether they're Nigerian, whether they're whatever, in America, a lot of us are I'm honestly, I feel like a lot of us are really broken in a lot of different ways. Not everybody, but a good amount of us are for different various reasons. So when you have a situation with the problem, I'm noticing is, young men don't know how to be men because you don't know, you haven't seen how to model for you to be in the community. Why does my job thank me every day when I come to work? Because it's good to see a young black man teaching young kids, Latino and black. So when you that's it. Like, and it's an important responsibility because women will complain, well, you know, he's not this, he's not that. Was he taught how to be a man? Was this woman taught how, exactly, was this woman taught how a woman is supposed to act? Not so much how a woman is supposed to act, what she deserves as a woman.
Oh, exactly.
Exactly. So if you don't know that, if you haven't seen that, and then you have, not every woman is strong enough, and I'm just being honest, not every black woman is strong enough to say, look, I'm confident in myself, I want you to have a balanced relationship with your father and myself. Some women are bitter. Some women have bad relationships with their ex-husbands or whatever. Vice versa. Some men are broken and they don't know how to be men because their daddy never taught them how to be a man. So these are the things that continue to happen. At least with the Asian community, you may have a web of, or like a family, like, okay, you can go to this place, stay there. Because for me, when I was messing up, they were like, okay, send them to his aunt in Kansas. Boom. It's not even a question, okay.
Well, Asians don't. If you're not in the fold, you have to go and find your way. If your child is out of wedlock and all the other stuff, they're not so embracing.
I think, see now.
Okay, he's saying something different though.
Yeah.
So what you saying?
I'm just saying when you're rearing the child in the beginning, from like, you know, childhood all the way up. Now those things are different. Now those things will probably vary from different culture to culture. Okay. What I'm just saying is teaching these kids how to be in society. You know what I'm saying? And how to, like I was talking to him, it's totally unrelated. But I was like, some of these young black men, black boys, not the girls, don't know how to be in school. And I was like, why do they not know how to be in school? I don't know what the answer to that question is, but they don't know how to be in school when they're kids. I don't know what the answer to that question is. I never did the research. I'm not a psychologist. But all I'm saying is, I'm noticing that these kids are not, there's something going on at home that if they don't have structure with the father there and the mother there to some this and that and the third, what can you do? There's no nothing. And I feel like if there's nobody to go to, what can you do?
I want you guys to speak.
Right. So I mean, this is what I want to say, just to piggyback on what you're saying. Definitely the foundation and where this child is being raised, it does play an aspect. But going back to the whole co-parenting thing as well, the way the parents are interacting and communicating with each other also does affect that child.
Absolutely.
If the child is saying both of you always going at it and just having disagreement, and every time you meet it's just this anger moment, never a loving moment, and not feeding this child love and not teaching this child that, you know what, we don't have to argue, we can just come to an agreement for what's best for this child. It's no longer about you and me, it's about him or her, you know, and I think that's usually what the problem is. Some parents lose that moment and just get caught up in their own self-need, and they fail to realize that it's no longer about you. Now you have a child with this individual, and that's all that matters. You should be able to get over whatever happened. You guys have moved past it. You should stop hating him for having another woman in his life, and you, the man, should stop being judgmental of whoever she has in her life. People know what they need in their life. She's a grown adult, you're a grown adult. People are going to make decisions that's going to be best for the child's interest at the end of the day. Now, it only becomes a problem, of course, if that individual is now looking out for that child's best interest. But majority of the time, a mother is always looking out. Or a father that's in the child's life is always looking out for their child's interest. So, I think...
What they think.
Right. I think also that...
Cheers to that, bro.
Yes. Just want to put that in there. Put that in there.
But definitely not creating that hostile environment for the child makes a difference.
Yeah.
If the child is always seeing their parents arguing and fighting, that child is going to grow up thinking that's normal.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to end up in a relationship just doing the same thing, but like, I saw my mom and dad doing this, I think it's normal.
They're going to act out.
I'm going to be transparent. So, me being a co-parent, my son was with me from 0 to 8 years old, and during the time, me and his dad, we had a relationship before, and we talked about it's going to come a time where he's going to have to come to you. We talked about this when he was months old, crawling around. Even we're together in the same household, living, but we knew things were kind of, but I like to cover all bases because I live in reality, and I said, well, what do we do, blah, 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 so. Yes. I'm not losing that. Yeah, I love you too.
I love you, like I really love you. I love you.
Okay.
The R word or?
Don't worry, my sister.
You know, I'm wearing
It is.
Is that a bad word?
No, but seriously, what you said hit something. I'm like, let me open this up. So we were together, blah blah blah, and we have our son. And he wasn't raised with his own dad. He met his dad later on. But he did have a father figure in the house, stepdad. So he always said, you know, that's my son, you know, like that's my boy, and I have to teach him how to do X, Y, and Z. So time and time went on. We broke up, and we still had the conversation, you know, as he grew up and certain things he would do, and I would tell his dad every single thing that was going on with him. He wasn't around because he was dealing with his male ego. And I said, well, I'm not going to charge my son for what his dad isn't doing at the moment, you know. So I spoke of him, had pictures of him, blah, blah, blah. So I moved across the country with my child. He knew this. He was the first person I asked him. I said, how do you feel about me doing blah, blah, blah? And he knew what I was doing career-wise way before, 2 years before. He knew that he knows the type of ambition I have. So he said, I knew that anyway. I knew it was going to be either LA or New York. So I took my son, and I think the first couple of months, I got a couple hate mails. You took my son away from me. And I'm like, no, we talked about this. Like, this isn't new to you, you know. You can always come here. And then my son would tell him things that, oh, I met brother such and so and brother such and so here and there, and it was eating on him.
Sorry, Mom.
I know, but this is my life, and this is something that he already knew. I understand, but this is something that I was very transparent with him. He knew every single step I made, and I said, you know, how do you feel about it? What are we gonna do? He knew I was gonna either go to New York, or we were gonna do New York because his family's in Jersey, and I was like, okay. Well, that'll work for me and what he was doing in his career. But I knew that California was where I needed to be. You know, my son's teacher lived next door to my house before I moved. And I said, come on, you know. So my son grows up, like literally in like 2-3 months. Like to me, we were there like a year and a half. And I said, you know, I think it's about that time for him to, because he started to like display certain things and like just male, that male piece, you know, and I listen to my own brother, my cousins and things of that nature. I'm like, you know, I've raised him to do certain things. He opens doors, he washes his clothes, you know, everything like that. And I talked to him. I said, how do you feel about living with your dad? He's like, okay, but what are you gonna do? You know, being a little man, he's like, I'm like, Mommy, you'll be fine. So I talked to his dad, and I actually sent him to his grandmother's house first. Me and his dad sat down at a park and had a very heart-to-heart conversation. And I told him, I said, I'm giving you a car with 8 miles on it. 8. I do not want it banged up. I don't want it presented back to me in some disheveled way. You know, I have him, he's reading at this level, he's doing this at this level. It's your turn to do your thing. And he said something to me that stuck to me even to this day. He said, allow me to be the father that I never had. And I was like, okay, I can't touch that. And then I remembered having conversations with my girlfriend saying to them, you have to love your child more than you dislike their father. Right. I don't hate anybody, so I don't even use that word. But I love my son and his growing up more than I can ever have any disdain with his dad. So 3 years later, he's with his dad. Now, granted, there's been some turmoil through it because we had to understand, okay, Mommy is here, but I can be there in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Well, 5 hours. But he felt like, I'm being the parent. Don't ask me anything. Don't question anything I'm doing. I'm like, excuse me. To the contrary, like, I have a question about why my son is doing this. Because when I had him in my care, if you know, whatever changed in his life, you knew about it.
You see, that's where it is unfair. Because the truth of the matter is, and I'm going to give a shout out to my family members, my uncle and aunt. They live here in Los Angeles, California, and I always tell them, and they think I'm joking, when I say, you know, the family in Nigeria won't understand how impressive what you guys are doing is. Like, they won't understand how, when you take your family, the father is there, the mother is there, in Los Angeles, California, and you guys are actually able to grow. You're actually able to raise children in America, because raising children in Nigeria is different, right? My grandmother and grandfather, I knew them more than I knew my mom and dad, and so did my cousins.
My grandmother raised me a lot.
You see what I'm saying? You know, so there's no pressure of you have to go out there and get money. Then, you know, you got to go out there and get money in Nigeria, but the foundation is so family oriented that you're going to see a common denominator most of the time, right? And I see my uncle and aunt, and I know that life is not perfect at all. But for the sake of the household, my uncle said something specific. He said, God has given you a responsibility when you have a family, right? Your main responsibility. I know you love your sister, your brother, whatever the case may be, but your responsibility is your household. You need to protect your household first, right? Because my nest is my nest. I love you guys a lot, but I need to make sure I hold my own down first before anybody outside there, because this is my responsibility, right? And my aunt says some things that sound very old school, but she's very stern about it because she doesn't play with it. She's like, look, you're not walking away out of just discomfort. Like, oh, no, this is cool, I'm going. No, because in my family, we don't do that. My father did not divorce my mother. None of my sisters. In our family, we've made it specifically clear, before you take this daughter of ours, right? I know life happens, that's cool. But we're going to make sure life doesn't happen that way. I'm just being honest. Because it's okay to be that stern about certain things that you want to last. If you want to get a PhD, right? It's okay for you to say, hey, friends, look, I want to get this PhD, so I'm not going to clubs for the next 3 years. Because this is what I have to make sure happens.
Whatever you want to do is okay. When you make a decision, there's no good and bad. I just think there are consequences. So when you do things, and if you're in a relationship and you decide, you know what, I don't want to do this, there are consequences with that. If you stay with the person that you know you're not supposed to be with, there are consequences with that. So you make the choice on what that is. My only issue is when I look at African or Nigerian families, and I know that I've stuck it through over the years, I wonder, when you look back after a 40 or 50-year marriage, was it worth it? Now, I would say in some ways, absolutely. In a lot of ways, hell no, it's not worth it. That's just my personal opinion. But you're gonna win or lose on certain things, depending on what you're doing.
To add on to what you're saying, and I've said this in other episodes before, and I've said something kind of negative about the American structure of it. The negative side of Nigeria's structure of marriages, majority of the time, it is not founded on what it should be founded on.
No.
It's status based. You know, so
extremely.
Exactly. So if we go 40 years and it's not worth it, it's because truthfully it wasn't. It was.
Let me also say something. I
Not
hate to get on my Nigerian girls like that, but I'm just gonna be honest. I'm just gonna be honest. When I hear other groups, it doesn't matter what race they are, that are not Nigerian, or Nigerians what I know. I'm a Nigerian. And I hear people talk about, it's more than just, it's not just about the money or this and that. It's not just about certain things. It's not this and that. I laugh because I was raised around that, where that was what it was every day. And even if I try to say, okay, let me be objective and say those are my parents, that's what they chose to do. That's not what I'm gonna do. I just kind of find it funny because it's hard for me to accept that, even though I know I can meet somebody who's African American and she could be like, I'm legitimately happy with who you are. You don't need to be all of that. I'm not. My values are you working towards this? What's your goals? What's your 1-year plan, 5-year plan? That's what I'm concerned. I'm not concerned about you being ready-made. Some are. Some are.
That ready-made.
Yeah, you know,
that's fact.
Some are.
We're off the co-parent thing. We need to get back in you chime in here.
Let me say something. Let me add something. I want you guys to respond because I made a pretty bold statement before we started speaking. The reason why this is a really great episode, by the way. I made a bold statement that it's definitely I know life happens, absolutely. But one of my main fears in the United States of America with marriage and having kids is because of the structural interference that this capitalistic society has created for everything. Everything has a price, right?
In recession, no.
Trust. Like, I'm just being honest, right? The fears I have is because if you look at statistics, right? There's actually, you can go online and check it. If you look at statistics.
Statistics.
Look, but you can't ignore it though, because if we're going to talk about
that's a poll.
Okay, but if it's a poll, but if we're going to have a conversation about why the African American community in America might be affected, we have to bring up the statistics of how many men they put in prison. Yes or no? You have to respect some.
Yes.
You got to respect some statistics. Statistically, in the United States of America, divorce rates are a lot higher because there are so many things that we might ignore that cause it to happen. You know, and of course it's an individual thing. If I have this conversation with you, like, look, this is not the goal at all. That is not your goal as well. Absolutely. I'm not going to bring up the statistics, but I'm going to be real with the fact that they've made it a little bit easier because, number one, I mentioned this before, my mom and dad are not right here with me. And I know sometimes when I sit down and think, life is a little bit easier when you have that support system, right? If myself and my girlfriend get in an argument, right, which is natural, the natural thing to do is to go to your side of the family, or we both go, we go somewhere else that cares enough for us to be together, right? They don't want to see us separated, so they will work as hard as we're working to make sure that we understand, hey, look, you guys are just being stupid. In the United States of America, though, it's not really set up, from what I'm seeing, it's not set up to keep that structure. It's just like, okay, if this is not working, you can just bounce.
There's no accountability.
I think this, you know,
Am I making sense or not? Like,
You're making sense, but it's. Go ahead, sweetheart. Go ahead.
No, I mean, what I was just gonna say to that is, you know, unfortunately we're living in a screwed up system. The system here is just built whereby it's built for people to fail unless you really fight hard through it. But I think it goes back to, you know, if you guys as parents of this child have that set communication, have that great communication, it does not even have to go to the level of taking it for a judge to decide over your child's life. Honestly, it only gets to that level when both of you cannot have a simple agreement and both of you are not communicating well. Both of you are not looking at what's best for this child. Both of you are just focusing on what's best for you, and then this create all this hostile environment back and forth. Then okay, it comes to the point whereby now we have to let this strange individual in the law enforcement decide what's going to happen to this child.
But
But it never has to get.
Let me ask you a
But it
question.
never has to
Why
get
did
to
you
that
say that?
level.
Let me ask you a
It
question.
never has to get to that level if we have a great rapport, if we are communicating great.
That's
if we're focusing
my
on what's
reality.
best
I did not have
of
to get.
the
Even if
I did
child.
not have to wait a minute. I did
You know?
not have to get. I'm sorry.
And I
but
think-
this is- no, really, like, because this is my life. I did not have to get any court involved in anything
Right.
related to me, my son, where he is, where his dad is, at all.
How
Because
involved is your family, if you don't mind me asking?
honestly, like, as involved as, I mean, I had my mother's around, but his
But the
family,
decision was her.
it was between him
and her.
and me. That's called pillow talk, okay? When you have pillow talk with somebody, you talk about those things. We talked about religion before consumption happened. We talked about religion. We talked about, what happens. We had that pillow talk because I understand that life happens. And if I'm laying with this person and we have this life together and we're sharing everything and life happens, let's get ahead of life a little bit and speak on possibility, right? So if possibility, I knew where his head was. He knew where my head was. We changed in a way as far as like being in our 20s and, kind of living life and being a certain way, but the values of what we wanted for our child did not change. So when I had my son, when I had our son and we had turmoil and destruction, I always went back to that foundation and said, you know what? I'm not going to charge him for being out of wits right now. He can't find the ground right now because the woman he once knew is not there right now. Because now our relationship has to shift into co-parenting. Now I never took his power away. I never, brought anyone else into the picture. That was actually my choice. From the time that my son was born until, 7, he only met one other person. And I did that purposely. I was like, no, you have to be worthy to even see that what his face looks like.
That's what I was saying earlier about the fact that I'm going to give up my life because I understand the effect of the reality.
But here's the thing. I'm going to, sorry. That was a choice of mine to look at his dad as, okay, it wasn't my community per se, because our community told us get married while we were together. You're together 4 years, you're together 5 years. And we looked at each other and said, this is a no. Like, we're not going to be the rest of them. I mean, our parents would say it in like little ways, like, my dad not
Is
so
that a
much.
real ring or is that? Oh, it's
Or
not a ring
just,
at all.
well, where you going? How many apartments you gonna get? You gonna buy a house? Little things that would drop in my family. Me and his mom were really, really close though. That's something my mother did tell me. She said you get to know the family. He's the only child, so me and his mom were very, very close. So to kind of fast forward now. My son is going to be 12, and shout out Isaiah.
Shut up.
He's able to see his father in a marriage with a woman. That's not his mom, but he's able to see how dad balances wife at home, mom, and he has another kid. So he has a relationship with his sister. Now, that was a little difficult for me to deal with because I knew the particulars of it. And I said, okay, well, I can't get involved with him and his sister. That's nothing that myself and her mom, we don't see eye to eye at all ever in life, and we never will. The Lord has to help me with that because of values. I value myself, and I'm not going to put my son in a situation where he's given everything because life doesn't give you anything. So I much rather him be in a situation where he understands you have to work. You got to make things happen and make your way through. So to fast forward to where we are now, like me and his dad, we talk. And there's some things that he's like, okay, Maya, like, he's a boy. I'm like, yeah, but why is he walking home by himself? Not being a mom, because I would do that even if I was in the house, But it works because we communicate, like you said. The relationship we once had is 10 years ago.
Move past it.
And now we're moving into college. And
I can't front, mama. I know. Adulthood is learned. Like, you got to learn adulthood every day.
Yes,
brand new.
it's true.
I can't lie though. Like, I could be the most gentleman ever, right? Ever. But the one thing I will say though is, if I have a son, I'm physically closer to him, no matter how divorced we are. That's one thing. I want to hold myself accountable for that because I understand. The boy turns 18. He's living in a household with the man who's giving him orders. He might flip one day and just do something wrong.
Even before 18.
You know what I'm saying? These are
like 15.
Exactly. These are realities where, he's living with his mother. He has a stepdad. Life happens. The other one is, son, I got a daughter, B, and yeah, we're not together, but it's the truth. But it's the truth because she's now living in a household
You might just have
with
a
a mother and step-pops. There's nothing wrong with it, but the reality is I can't deceive myself and be in Miami and say, it's cool, mommy, you got this. It's really hard and we can't act like it's not.
Let me just say this, from my personal opinion, everybody's going to put their own point of view, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, there are definite people who are able to sustain a co-parenting relationship. It's possible, but I just wish, I always wanted to be directly in my kids' life, no matter what. I want to be in their life. I mean, and it's maybe because of the way I was raised. Not that anybody was raised in a bad way, but just because the traditional way that I was, the era that I was raised in, hopefully your mom and your dad is in the household raising the kids.
I'm the one that's gonna flug you when you need to.
Yeah, that's what I hope. That's my goal. I hope. But I can't control that all the time. No, this is the other thing I was gonna say. I was like, I can't really control what she's gonna do. I can pray. We can work together. I mean, there's an understanding. I cannot.
It's real, bro.
He can't feel.
No. I feel you.
I cannot.
Twitching.
I cannot control.
I hear what he's saying.
Yeah, I can't control what she's gonna do. I can just do my best as a man, and then if that doesn't work or it doesn't work out, because give you this example. Like, you can say, well, Chris Brown, he's rich, he has money and stuff like that. But if I don't agree with giving you $15,000 a month.
Right.
For child support in Texas with no taxes and stuff like that, and I'm like, this looks a little
that's
fun.
a whole different.
No, I don't agree. No. Now they go by the lifestyle that you live. That's how the court does it. So if Chris Brown is worth 15, 20 million, whatever, the child has to live that lifestyle as well. But if I feel like that's wrong, what's wrong in that? Now to go back to the court situation, I have to listen to what the court says because. That's what we're going to go to court and argue it. But is that really fair?
Let me see.
No, you put yourself in a situation.
High five. Right. I was just going to say.
You should have thought about that
what
when you
she's
was
saying, right?
See,
the lifestyle you choose, right? The lifestyle you choose. The lifestyle.
Should have wrapped it up.
Lifestyle.
You know.
But that's why you get into, that's why you situation that you use a lifestyle.
That's
Ripping.
Now you see why I'm saying the lifestyle you choose. Okay, but the man. Let me just say one thing. Like,
I wanted to bring up another point about
like, I'm sorry. To kind of go back to what you were saying, right? It's not even about the money thing, right? There's something key that you just mentioned, though. I don't know what she's going to do.
No, I have no idea.
Now, I'm going to say this, and a lot of people might say it's wrong. That's fine. But I truly believe, right, in the American system, this is something that's kind of unspoken, but it almost feels as if a lot of men have been damaged through this co-parenting thing. Like, some women, quite a majority that I've seen, use the child as, I got you.
Yeah, I got you. By the ball.
Yeah, I got you, right? A lot of women use the guy as that, and it's marketed that the guy's a deadbeat.
I'm gonna take it to another level. There are women.
But she had a point.
Okay, go ahead. I
was gonna say, I'm gonna kind of just shift this a little bit. Now, me having a son, only one, I personally will not deal with someone that has 2 or more children because that's too many variables in my pot. Now, my situation works for my life. Like, I thank God that I don't have drama. It's beautiful. You know, I can bring whomever I want into my life, and you know, so I can live.
Hey, you're stupid, bro. Don't let the Yoruba boy see this. Are you trying to get like this? He's falling in love on set. I don't blame the man, but look, Jesus. All right, go. Let her finish the statement though. This guy is a fool, man. You are just. It is the House of Commons though. This is. Go.
So for me, because everybody's situation is not mine, so I have to be realistic with who I am. I actually like when people do have children because that lets me know who they are.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Because children tell everything. Like, you meet my son, I promise you, you'll say, "Oh my God, you are my son." Like, my goodness.
No matter how old they are.
It doesn't matter. So for me, it's like, yeah, I can tell. Now, when you have 2 and 3, and then you got other women around, that's too many. I don't care if it were the Huxtables, the Bradys, all in one sandwich. There's no way that I'm going to be like 5th or 6th on the list. And I should be, because you have all these pieces to the puzzle. Now, as I meet people and I see that, I'm like, okay, well, I love to see how their relationship is with their ex. Their ex-wife, child's mom. I don't use the word baby mom, baby dad. I don't even believe in that term. And when people meet me and they know my situation, they're like, wow, like, I cannot believe your situation is what it is. I said, well, it's the people involved. So for me, I don't do 3 or more because it's too many. Now, if it's a wife and you've had 3 kids, as you said, the older you get, you tend to, like, your list get a little shorter. Yeah, and you have to say, okay, because I've met some people, that have had 4 children with one person, but their youngest is like 25. I'm just saying, like, whatever, or in their 20s, so they're well into their life, so then they're starting their own life, so there's different,
Now let me ask you this,
things,
right? Because before we started this, you definitely schooled me, right? You know what I'm saying?
I schooled
You school, yeah, I'm proud of you. Because you mentioned. The reason why I mentioned that is because you mentioned quite often, if it's a union put together by God, right? It typically shouldn't go down this route, right? And connecting it back to the marriage structure and the marriage responsibility, as the church dictates, is till death.
That's right.
Do us part through thick and thin.
That's right.
Right? Now, have we kind of watered down the thick?
I agree. Yeah.
Do you think our society has watered down what thick is?
I don't know. I don't know. It's really, and honestly, it's really hard, because there's so many different dimensions. I was gonna say something that's gonna attach to what I'm about to say right now. I know some women who, first of all, not every woman is like you. So let me just put that out there.
Tell y'all.
Yeah, that's good. That is so true.
Girl, my boys. lifestyle you choose.
No, but on some real, I know there are women out there that are married with kids, and they are using the court system as a leverage inside of the marriage.
Wow.
So yeah, because it's like, you want to try some shit? Oh, okay, well, so and so's only 12 years old. We got another 6 years to go, so you better figure it.
And it's
that
very
kind of thing. And it's very, very common.
That's
So,
deep.
And by the way, don't think it's just one specific community that's doing it.
Oh no, it's everybody.
I worked in this really affluent certain city.
Yeah.
Fam, there's some
Vicious.
There's some people who are not getting the eyes of what they're actually doing. Like,
oh no,
I worked in a specific city. There's LinkedIn, you can check. Fam.
Yeah.
The people who you not think are dog.
Yeah. Leverage. Woo! Try it. Oh, you want a divorce? Don't worry, I'm gonna take. I'll take half.
I got you.
I don't mind half.
Wow.
You know, and it's. But let's go back to that thing that I said specifically, because I think that's a really key thing to bring up. There are guys who are going through the way the system works here, where, you know, once I got this marriage or this kid with you, this is you right here, right?
Yeah.
Can you guys speak on that? Like, what do you think? Is this a lie? Is this factual? Like,
Got a guy when he has.
And guys are doing it too. I know dudes who are getting chicks pregnant for that lock because she got more of the paper. But a lot of men are being destroyed with this co-parenting thing. You know, a lot of men are being intimidated by. You want to.
Well, no, I'm trying to make sure I understand the point that you're making. So
when a woman has a child with a man in this country, right, because of the legal system or because of whatever, people are using children as the weapon.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, yes.
And the way society is presenting it is as if men are not affected by this.
Right.
Right? Because you often hear deadbeat dad, deadbeat dad, deadbeat dad.
It's so sad.
It's really sad. But nobody's speaking about, maybe a lot of guys actually want to be in their children's lives,
Yeah, they do.
Right.
but you know, you're not blaming this person that might be using this as a weapon.
This is what I would say about it. It is definitely true, and it's so sad. It's extremely sad that women actually get to this point whereby they don't even realize the damage that they're doing to the child. You know, it's not gonna benefit you along the way. Yeah, you're gonna make this guy's life miserable. You're gonna have him paying you all this money, but that child is not gonna grow up to be that extremely happy child that even has the experience of how it feels to have a father in their life. So I am completely against it. I think it's so sickening for women to do that. You know, that is not the best way to have control of this man. You know, that is extremely not the best way. And unfortunately, we have a system that condones it. You know, and some men get to the point of just getting tired of fighting. But like, you know what, I am done. I'm tired of fighting. You know, she don't want me in this child life. It is what it is, and that's why most of these men are not in their children's life. It's not sometimes always the case that they don't want to be in the child's life. It's always this case of this woman making the man's life so miserable, putting him in situations whereby they just.
Can I also add?
I wanted to say something. I'm gonna speak on the situation, but then I'm gonna kind of open it up. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but it was on the internet where this guy it was a guy, his two kids, and his ex-wife and his mother-in-law, and they were
by the car. Oh,
when I tell you,
and the trunk. And the mom and the grandmother are just going. The guy's like, I'm gonna record this because I just want to make sure this is seen.
It was absolutely horrible. You have to see this.
You gotta
but you
watch
have to like
it.
wait
Check
till
it.
your emotions. I'm telling you, because it's gonna piss you
Long
off.
story short, they're by the car. I think the father. You want to say it? Tell the story.
Tell the story.
You want to tell the story?
You can tell your but no, I'll tell my perspective of it. We have the same, but it's.
But you gotta say the story. So
Okay. So there's I guess they were at the doctor's or something, and there's a guy with his the two kids was with the ex-wife, and she literally was using the children against the father. I think she kept saying something like, "Let me get Oh yeah, no. I know what the whole situation was. They got haircuts. Oh my God,
haircuts.
So he gave them took them. I think he either took them to get their hair cut or he cut their hair. Mind you, regular haircut. It wasn't like some old mohawk. These children were maybe 3 and 4. Yeah, no, they weren't 7. They were under 7. So nevertheless, she kept saying, "Well, why didn't you consult with me first? Why didn't you consult
Yeah.
with me first?
Haircut,
She said it like 50 times.
And
He's
the
like,
mom-
they're haircuts. Like, why are you tripping over haircuts?
Her mom didn't stop her either.
So mom didn't get into it quite yet
That's
until
why they're
she didn't get into it until it got good, right? So she's like, why are you mad over haircuts? So she's like blocking his car, right? So then he was like, let me leave. So then she puts the children behind the car. Like it's her and the two babies.
You ain't going nowhere, bro.
And they're like crying, and he's like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?" Like she's like, "You should have told me that you were getting these kids haircuts, and they need their jackets."
And you see, now that's the thing that I'm saying.
God.
Too often,
It was
right?
horrible. Like
That is not seen.
Right.
And what is often marketed, because look, I love ladies.
Yeah.
I love my ladies, but in the good and the bad way, a woman knows how to build a man up.
And
And a
bring
woman
tears
knows.
down.
Now let me say
A
this.
woman knows how
Let
to
me
just
give-
to the
turn
worst
that.
point of
But
your
let
life.
me give my perspective as I watched it, because I watched it a few times. Her mom got involved, and you're this, you're that. We're gonna call the police, and so he's filming it, and then the mom says something. So as I watched it, I said, okay, because I always try to go for the underdog, like how brothers get the short end of the stick. I do my best to try to open it up, you know. I said, okay, so if that was my brother, right? What would I tell him to do in a situation?
Right.
I would have gotten in the car, sat in the car, closed the door, and waited her out. Because you already know you can't fight fire with fire.
Right.
Your children are there. If anything, he could have very easily got in the car. She could have screamed and ran and did all of that.
Just let her
call
be the fool.
call the police. Have your camera, however you want to do it. Call the police and say, listen, I have a situation. Or I'm gonna give you another perspective. If you already know your ex-wife is a little off, baby mama, kid's mom, you need to have a lawyer on what? Retainer. Because you know that she's gonna trip at any moment. So you need to call up, Esquire, blah, 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 and say, I need you to do. I'm just saying, if you're gonna govern yourself accordingly now, because he fought fire with fire, it looks horrible.
Now,
So that's just my
You
perspective.
mentioned something pretty important, right? You said if that was my brother, and I keep emphasizing the village thing, right? Because bringing the lawyer and the cop into the situation is already messing it up 100%. Because what can happen is, okay, you both are not ready to be parents, so we're gonna take this kid and put him in this.
Yeah.
That could in
CTS.
that's
That's
America.
the worst
CTS ain't
of
gonna
But
play with
because
you.
she had custody of the kids, though.
Exactly. But here's the thing, though, because
Okay.
in a respectable community, right? In a respectable community, right? Number one, it's hard as a man to be disrespected. It is very
And let me just say this,
yeah.
in any facet, in any way.
anywhere,
Real talk,
right?
real talk, yeah.
It's very hard to be disrespected. So yes, it would be good for me to just calm myself down because I understand going to the car and sit down. My hope will be that my family comes to my defense.
Unity.
Her family comes to the defense of the situation, not her specifically.
Yeah.
But in the United States of America, it doesn't work like that. What happens is CTS doesn't even ask the kid.
Yeah.
They don't ask the kid, did your father hit you? No.
Yeah.
Where did your father hit you?
Yeah.
It's so sad.
It's how we're asking this because we got
Honestly,
paperwork to fill out.
if there's an inkling of any kind of thing, they're just taking your kids
But
and
I
that's
mean,
it later.
I'm just saying this. I understand what you're saying, but there's certain things that you can do
Absolutely.
to make that statistic go lower.
Absolutely.
For your own situation.
Be grown adults.
And you
Right.
know who you're dealing. You know the girl is off.
But here's the thing, though.
You know she was off when you met her. That's probably why you liked her.
Here's the
But can I
reality.
say something?
Let me just throw one real little reality in there, right? The reality of life is, if I'm with you, right, and let's say our relationship was not the greatest of all time, and you find this dude over here, and he treats you better, and he loves you better, right? It is me and Zen and God that will be like, okay, look, that is over with. Let it go. It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's
Yeah.
hard. Because if I
That's
pull
where
up
we
with a
gotta
fly honey, it ain't like you just gonna be. Of course you're gonna be hurt. I need to
It
understand
depends on the woman.
it. Ma,
Yeah,
look at this, look at this.
Look at this girl.
Look at this girl.
I'm sorry.
Look at this girl.
Look at this
No,
girl.
yeah.
Okay, so what's
You should look like that, but you're not me.
Yeah, I mean like.
What I was gonna
We
say.
share the same, but you ain't. No.
Exactly.
It's only one
Okay.
me.
Okay.
What I was
So-
gonna say, to piggyback on the story Maya was talking about, this goes back to usually what I call the beginning foundations of getting to know that person before it gets to marriage. I think at some point, when someone is really crazy or
Yeah.
cool, they have given you a glimpse of it along the way. So I think what us as human beings usually do is we tend to ignore it. We're talking about this today, that whole
The heart goes where it wants to go.
we tend to ignore it and pretend as if it's not happening, doesn't exist until
Boom.
Until it comes and bites you.
Yes, and then it opens up and it's like, whoa.
Right.
And then it creates even worse problem, and now it leads to divorce, it leads to, you guys fighting over this.
So I have a question.
I was going to say, people are really, not consistent, but I would say people, I don't really go off what you're saying necessarily. I go off what you do.
And what you don't say.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in between it. I actually have a question for you guys.
Okay.
Them?
Yeah.
I would say males because it's really about you guys.
Okay.
What do you do to protect yourself in situations like that? Or what kind of advice, because you guys would never be in that situation. But I'm saying like the likelihood is slim.
What I'm starting
what would you do? You know what I mean? What would be your
And this is me growing up and getting older and wiser, right? Just this year alone, or like in the last, from November, since Thanksgiving to like February, I've been to my uncle and aunt's house and my family's house like 8 times. Before, I never really used to go there because I was just young, but the thing that I'm starting to understand a lot more, that village that I emphasize a lot, right? that community is extremely important because you realize pretty soon in America, your friend's uncle said it, USA means you stand alone.
You stand alone, yeah.
Right? It's the truth. So it's but it's not safe to. So whether it's a church, whether it's somewhere where there's community, you and I need to go to a similar place where they look at us and they believe and understand how responsible we are, because you will be ashamed to act irresponsibly, right? So you got people watching you.
That's good advice.
For real.
I like that.
It's kind of difficult though, because for me, that particular situation you just described, the part that you described to me, like you said, I'll wait you out. I'll just sit there, be quiet, let you do what you do. That's what you want to do. You want me to react to what you're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit there and let you do what you're doing. You're not going to do nothing. You're not going to hurt your own kids. So I'm going to sit there, okay, cool. I'm not going to say, I already know how to.
She's putting them behind the car. Like, you don't know what kind of pain and anger she got in there, bro. Like, that video was pretty.
I think, but then it goes back to what we were talking about originally. Like I said, if I'm interacting with you, I dated you, we had sex multiple times.
They got married.
Okay, that's even making me my point even more. So y'all been married, y'all had sex, y'all done dated, y'all done multiple children together. You know her.
Exactly.
You know who she is. So before y'all even had kids, you
knew what she was capable of doing.
Should we conclude this?
Yeah. So, but this is my problem as a man, though. In the United States of America, when somebody's doing something like that, there's no accountability for these kinds of things. There's no nothing. You just do what you want to do. Everybody just do what they want to do and the system supports this kind of behavior. Because
we must change. We must change it.
We must change it. Yeah. And that goes to what you said.
Yeah.
Because the reason why what you said is key, right? Is it's not that it is more common. It's not. I'm not saying America is just no, but it goes back to what you said. Accountability on the understanding that the kid is what's important, right? Because you guys are grown adults. I'm not gonna sit here and sound corny as if grown adults don't have emotion and we don't do things to favor us. Of course, that's human nature, but the kid involved and the fact that the United States of America has something like CTS, which they have to create because of whatever reasons, but they have something where it's just paperwork away from changing somebody's life.
Yeah.
My friend is
like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Like we just going, okay, like I go to court for a fix-it ticket.
Yeah.
We go into court, okay, you make how much? $5,000? Okay, you're gonna see her on Tuesday. Good night. And we gotta fight to those things are the reason why we need to revisit how we are creating
I agree.
these partnerships. But nonetheless, I've discussed it. Before we even conclude, this is probably the best episode we have ever had on this show. Yeah. I'm so glad these ladies are here and you guys, we're as transparent as possible. I want to say thank you. I've learned a lot before we even started shooting because, of course, that's not something I want, but reality is real. And, the best thing that you can do is try your best to work it with God and hope that God created this human being that created this kid for you. And, community. And I'm going to say this as a man, I have to learn. I'm learning how important the right community is around you. Community is not just your direct family. But if your direct family is a great foundation and a community, it is important to bring your child into your life, your partner's life, and the life of your community. Because it does take a village, and children are very delicate, and their foundational, time in their lives are very important. I'm saying this because
Absolutely.
I come from that, and I'm very grateful that my grandmother told me to go get that cane.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? My grandfather didn't really talk much, but he sits down and you know what time it is. Your uncle is studying to be a lawyer, your other one is doctor. It's not about what they're studying to do, but they just have responsibilities and they have accountability, so that's the wish. If it happens, it happens, but you gotta be grown adults and, work with God and family and things like that. So
Well, I mean, this is what I'm going to say. Life happens. Life is unpredictable. None of us wake up and plan on having a child with a person that we don't end up marrying or being with. But at the end of the day, if you find yourself in that situation, the focus needs to be what's best for the child. It's no longer about your needs. It's no longer about you. Please get past the relationship you had with that individual and focus on the child's best interest, because at the end of the day, if that child is not in the best environment whereby they can grow to be something great, it's gonna reflect back on you guys as the parents. So please put your self-interest aside and focus on the child's best interest and create a good communication with the person that you have this child with. And if you are that individual that's in a relationship with a man that has a child with another woman, be the bigger person if you need to be that bigger person. So have that great communication with that woman as well. Or if you're that man that's in a relationship with a woman that has a child with another man, you can be that bigger person and have that great communication as well. It's all about all of us being adults, respected adults, looking out for this individual's best interest. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
love too, love.
That's the
is key.
Well, I want to say, I don't live with regrets. So before you put yourself in a situation, you need to lay the whole thing out. You have to have vision and see it. Don't be so caught up in the clouds of love and wonderfulness that you don't see what it could possibly be. So having lived the situation and living it currently, I don't live with regrets. I have a relationship with my son's dad before, now, and until even in death, I think we'll have some sort of connection to our son, which we will. But it's having communication, and I think when communication and respect takes a back seat, you're gonna have a problem. Now, on the flip side of it, if I was to meet someone with a child or children, I need to see the relationship and how it works, because that tells me, that's a telltale sign of what is to come. So, and I know I'm bringing certain things to the table too, so that's another piece of the puzzle. But you have to look at the whole entire picture and say, okay, can I do this? What is he doing? How is he doing it? The relationship he has with his ex-wife or, his kid's mom. 2 and 3 I can't do because it's not a cheerleading squad and that's not the coach. You feel me? So I much rather, be a little more, intimate. And then I have to think about my son. Everybody that I bring into his life, I'm not going to bring him, here are your 5 and 6 new brothers and sisters, because that's not respecting him. And I know my relationship with him. So I would say communication and I'm not living with regret and understanding what you do it's a story. So you have to know what it is from beginning, middle, and, to the end. So,
Honestly, if you're gonna end up being in a situation where you're co-parenting and that's what's happening, just make sure, like she said, for the kids at least, at the end of the day, it's not about you necessarily. I mean, it's hard, it's easy to say and hard to do, but it's not about you, it's the best interest, it's always in the best interest of the kids. So whatever you're doing, always just keep the kids in the front of your mind, and I think that will help things work out, because a lot of the times, I know we're talking about how, some of these women may be acting some type of way, but some men, there's so many different kind of situations where it's just dysfunctional, and I think that we can control that a little bit, because, we're adults and we know, we have an idea, we know who we're dealing with, we know what's best for our kids, if you want to be a good parent. So like I said, this goes back to just being a good parent, and what does that mean? No matter what the situation is, there's an opportunity for you to be a good parent, sometimes you may not be allowed to. There's some different circumstances where you may be blocked from that for whatever reason, like we were discussing earlier. But I really believe that if you put the child in front and say, okay, this is what we need to do the best. What we need to do for the best for the child, it's an easy decision and it's an easy thing to do in that sense. So I'm not 100% for co-parenting. I hope I don't have to. I'm not against it either, really. In this society, in this day and age, it's unrealistic for me to say I'm gonna meet a woman, even at my age. Oh well, you know what I'm saying, I don't want no kids.
Especially when you like them most.
You see what I mean?
Damn, she's over here making herself like laugh. How's it going? How's it going?
Good one.
You know, just be careful with the lifestyle you choose, though.
Yeah.